Guys, we just witnessed the greatest 400-meter women's race of all time. Last year, I called out Sydney McLaughlin to move to a real event, and 1 year later, she not only she moved, but she won against the two greatest current 400-meter women's runners in Paulino, the Olympic and defending world champion, and Sawed Nasser, a world champion and the fifth fastest woman of all time. Guys, coming into this race, I predicted it right. There would be two women who would run 47 and a third who would run 48 low. And that's what happened. I was thinking they would all run 47 if the conditions were right, but it was very rainy. But we've seen that even with rain, you could still produce great times. I think next time these three line up, they will all run 47. This is similar to the men's 400-meter hurdles in 2021 when the top three established themselves as the perennial runners of that event, and they all run 46 on a consistent basis. I think right now these three are in the class of their own, but even among these three, I think Sydney has separated herself just a little bit from the other two. Because if you think about it, 47.78 to 48.19, both are amazing times, but that is a 4/10 of a second difference. That's actually a different league. If Paulino wasn't there in the middle to like separate Sydney and Sawa, the gap would look much wider, and we would obviously be able to tell that Sydney's a couple of steps ahead of Nasser, like in a different level. But because Paulina was right in the middle, literally like 2/10 away from Nasser and 2/10 away from Sydney, then the race looked very close among all three. And the fact that Mary Lady Paulina ran a sub 48 and lost, man, that's crazy. But I think it's even crazier that you can run a 48.19. Like, how many times has that ever happened? Very handful of times. And you get third place. Like any other year besides this year, aside from last year's Olympics, you would have gotten gold medal. Literally in every single race in the 400-meter history, aside from 1985 and whatever those the years where they were doing a lot of drugs. Every world championships, every Olympics from that year forward and before that, Salway Nasser would have won this race with her 48.19. That's how dominant she ran. And she came in third behind two women who ran 47. And guys, this is crazy. More women ran 47 in this final than women ran a 48 second 400. That's like the spread of this race is crazy. How is two women ran 47 while there was only one woman who ran 48? You would think that there would be more 48s and less 47 just by the difficulty, but we almost had half the the final run of 47 or close to half the final. Imagine if all three ran 47, it would be three 47s and then a giant huge leap and then 49s, which are good but like different league, different levels. And now guys, I honestly think watching this race over, I think Salwade Nasser really messed up. Two things. Salwade Nasser and Marilady Paulino could have easily won this race or at least been within a tenth of a second from Sydney McLaughlin. First, let's start off with Paulino. Paulino, she did herself a disservice by shutting it down and getting a horrible lane draw. And I'm not saying lane 9 is a horrible lane draw, but Paulino always seems to run really good, and I mean really good and like win when she has somebody fast right outside of her to base the to like gauge her effort. And since she was lane 9, she had to do a Wade Van Niekerk, but she's not a Wade Van Niekerk. She's great, but this is her first time really being the one to set the pace, and that's not her style. She's usually a moderate runner in the first 200, and then she just clamps it down in the last 120. If she was in lane 5 between Sydney and Sawa, I honestly think Marilyn Paulino could have ran a 47 8 low or maybe the same time as Sydney. But it would have been a lot closer because the pacing for Paulino was way different. She was out extremely aggressive, and then it felt like she kind of shut it down, and then she kicked it up again. That wastes a lot more energy. I think she should have just went balls to the. Maybe she did, but I think maybe just like a little percentage off on the back stretch during the first half of the race, and then kicked it into overdrive in the last 120. I think that would have made a step or two difference. And Salway Nasser, I mean, she ran really good, but she made one huge mistake. She was running too far out from her lane border. So you know how on each lane there's the two white lines? She was honestly like 2 or 3 feet away from the line. She wasn't hugging that corner tight enough. And I did the math on Chat GPT. That could cost you almost up to half a second based on where she was running. She was like at least 2 or 3 feet. And that's what Sydney did correct in this race, guys. Like, really? Copyright. Look at the race over again. Sydney was hugging her lane so tight, bro. Like, she was inches or centimeters away from her white shoe or white spike from touching the lane. Like, it would be hard to tell the difference between her shoe and the lane border. And so she reduced the error in her race. Not only did she run a great race in terms of energy distribution, but her feet placement throughout the whole race was the best out of all three ladies. She hugged the corner the tightest. She ran it the smoothest. Therefore, she eliminated any wasted energy to run that curve. And she honestly ran less distance than Salway Nasser by a lot. And then Paulino, she was all right, hugging the curve kind of tight, but Sydney was literally on that line, like pushing the edges. That's why she's a winner, guys. She literally, her and her coach, I don't know what they did in terms of training, but the race execution was near flawless. Like, she can definitely run faster. I'm not sure how she's gonna run faster. Maybe she just gets stronger, but she hugged that curve really well, and that got her 2/10 or 3/10 ahead of Salwa Nasser just by that. And with Paulino, she had the better lane draw. Sydney did, so she was always watching those two, and just running her own race. But she knew that she could kick it up into the final gear just a step earlier than the other two, and the other two would have to expend more energy to respond. In this type of race, guys, you want to be the person who makes other people respond, because it takes more energy to react than it is to initiate. Because it's like a rebound. You gotta absorb it and then give it back, which is more than just giving it. So, yeah, guys, greatest women's 400-meter race. Honestly, this was awesome. They got to run it back next year. Man, it's too bad that we don't have a championship for the first time in like 5 years. Like, this is a weird opinion, but thank goodness for COVID. That COVID year actually did something amazing for us, because by eliminating that gap year where everyone takes a year off to just chill out, it forced athletes to be greater than they could have ever been. Like, think about all the world records that we've seen in the last 5 years. Like, Doha was a glimpse of it with the men's 400-meter hurdles, but now they took 2020 off, so a lot of the athletes were primed to really run fast that year. But they unfortunately had to take it off, so they just maintained that fitness and carried on to the next year. And then in 2021, we saw the revolution of the 400-meter hurdles, Mondo Duplantis, men's hurdles, what else? Men's 200 take a resurgence in the fast times, and then back to back, we just seen so many runners establish themselves as all-time greats in these 5 years, like Noah Lyles, Sydney McLaughlin, Grant Holloway, even though he started before the 2021 Olympics. Who else? We could have seen Michael Norman on that. But back to the women's race. I just want to get back. Thank goodness for that COVID year, because Sydney McLaughlin she's literally destroyed at the competition every single year except 2023 when she unfortunately got injured. Like that's the only year she missed out on, and that year she would have won Budapest too. And that sucks because I like Budapest, my favorite city on the planet that I've ever visited to. Budapest for sure. Man, she should have been there, and she should have raced Paulino and Nasser that year too. But wow, that was incredible race, guys. I'm gonna do another breakdown. Let me know your thoughts, guys. And next time they line up, I don't think as good as Sydney is, and I think she's gonna run faster next time. I think Paulino and Nasser, they're not Femke Bowl guys. Paulino's an Olympic and world champion. Nasser has been consistently running great all year, and she just messed up on her race execution in terms of hugging the line. Next time they line up, if they're smart or at least do the film study that I just did in 5 minutes, they're going to run significantly faster. Paulino's going to run 47.7 next time, guaranteed. And Nasser's going to run 47 for sure next time. So that means the other two, they got to maintain this level of fitness and keep pushing it because they're just going to keep running faster. These three are just going to keep pushing and pushing. But I'm just saying, Nasser has done what Sydney has done. Remember in 2019 when Nasser was a 49.09 runner, and then she dropped to a 48.14 in the span of like a month? That's what Sydney just did. She was a 48.7 runner, and now she's a 47.7 runner. Like, that is on a different galaxy level. So we got world champions who can ascend in the top three. This is a greater trio than like Benjamin, Warholm, and Dos Santos, because I think the third place person here in this trio, Nasser, is actually a way better runner than Dos Santos. And I'm talking about, pound for pound or pound for event, whatever you want to call it, because Nasser has been dominating all season. She was the world leader for most of the year. She's been running, I think she ran the most 48s out of these three all year, to be honest. So she has the consistency. She just needs the race execution. She needs to hug that line way harder, and she'll drop 3/10. If she would have hugged that line, she would have ran like a 47.87 or 8.9 this race. Would have gotten her second, which would in a way better personal best. But maybe she wouldn't have won gold today, or maybe if she, I'm not sure, guys. Even if she hugged the line, I don't think she would have won gold, but it would have been way closer. Maybe she could have broke Sydney. You never know. Because if she was out in front the whole time by hugging that line, maybe she would have forced Sydney to exert herself way faster or earlier in the race strategy and mess with Sydney's head. Not saying that it would likely happen because Sydney's a champion, but it's possible with the type of runner with Nasser, like, what's her name? Shawnee Miller-Weber was broken by Nasser. We've seen that. Shawnee Miller-Weber could have ran like a 48 flat. She had the capability. She never did. She honestly ran never to her potential. But she got broken by Nasser in the 2019 World Championships. We saw that. We saw her face. She was in shock. She had to overexert herself in the last 100, and even though she closed in, she couldn't close in fast enough because she was really overdoing it. And she put herself in a bad spot earlier in that race anyway. And then for Paulino, man, Paulino did her best, but she's not meant to be the lead runner. She's supposed to at least have one person that's legit competition, so Sydney or Sawa to her outside, just so she can get a good... Paulino just needs to have a good gauge by 300. After that, it's Paulino knows what to do in the last 100. But I think this is the first time I've seen Paulino really struggle in the last 100. And it's because we saw her like really exert herself and ramp it up in the first 200, then kind of take it down in the curve, and then ramp it up again. Like, no, she messed up by doing that. Anyways, yeah, guys, greatest women's 400-meter race in a while. Beast.